Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss, the podcast for busy professionals, entrepreneurs, and business owners who want to travel smarter, save money, and plan unforgettable trips without the stress. I'm Ross, your host and the founder of Itinerary Boss. I spent a decade building a career in healthcare, software, and medical device sales while planning both personal and business trips across more than 20 countries. Whether it was group getaways with friends, couples trips, or just mapping out business territories, I became the go-to person for saving money on flights, organizing those logistics, and using points to elevate the experience. Now, as an entrepreneur and business owner, I help others do the same by showing you how to travel better using points, smart planning, and those proven strategies. Each week, we bring you expert guests, step-by-step tutorials on points and miles, and real-world itineraries that we've used to help you plan with confidence. Whether it's using points to travel better, exploring a new destination, or just learning how to maximize your spending, we've got you covered. Before we dive in, go ahead and grab one of our free tools in the show notes. One, the points and miles cheat sheet that'll help you get started earning and redeeming points to save thousands on travel, or the stress-free travel toolkit that includes a budget guide, packing checklist, and planning tips to save you time and hassle. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or busy professional looking to choose your next credit card or get help maximizing your everyday spending for rewards and booking free travel, book a free one-on-one consultation. You can find the link within the show notes or head over to itineraryboss.com. And if this episode helps you, please share it with a friend or family member, follow the show, and leave a 5-star review. It's the best way that helps us grow. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy. I'm excited to have Chris Hill, the CEO and founder of Hands Up Holidays, on the show today. Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
Hey Ross, fantastic. Thanks. Yourself?
Can't complain, can't complain. Just a busy day of interviews. I've been going on some podcasts, doing some interviews, so just getting warmed up for ours. So excited to have you here.
Tremendous.
Yeah, so would love to just understand a little bit more about, what you do, what is Hands Up Holidays for our audience.
Hands Up Holidays is a travel company that puts together trips that combine luxury with customized giving back experiences and the main point of difference being overlaying that with an element of giving back through volunteering and or philanthropy. So that can look like spending a few days at a wildlife conservation center, or helping build a house, or being a reading partner in a school. It's all really there's a wide range of options, and it's really down to what the client is looking for.
Yeah, I found it very interesting from our conversation when we first met, just looking over you all's website. Are there specific destinations that you really work in, that you've done your most work in?
Yeah, I would say Costa Rica would be our most popular destination, and sort of Central America in general. So Belize, Guatemala are also probably our most popular destinations, uh, followed by followed by probably Africa, Kenya, um, and South Africa. Yep.
Okay. Well, hey, those are quick flights. I'm in Charlotte. I know you know that, but for our listeners, a lot of listeners are here in Charlotte or outside the DC area. So getting to Costa Rica, Belize, Guatemala is pretty easy for the people who want to spend, 3 hours in the air. And then once you get there, it's, those aren't long trips. I know for me, selfishly, I definitely want to get into South Africa and learn a little bit more about all of that, but would love just to understand a little bit more, right? How did this get started? And, over the years, how has it really just morphed into what it is today?
Mm, yeah, great question, Ross. So it started on a trip that I took to South Africa. I was living in London, England at the time, and I was working in finance. And on that trip, in addition to going on safari and exploring the the, the wonders of Cape Town and the Garden Route and places like that, I also helped to build a house for a family in one of the townships. And this just enriched the travel experience for me so much in two main ways, really. One, that it felt great to actually to make a difference with them, with the family that we were, working alongside, and gaining insights into their lives and sharing laughs and stories. And well, that was the second thing, really. We got to make this difference, but also got to, as opposed, in contrast to a lot of the travel that I'd done previously, didn't actually get to interact with them well, with anybody. It was see the sights. It was tick off the Eiffel Tower and the Colosseum and so on, which are great, and there's definitely a place for that. But this trip enabled me to go a bit deeper and actually interact with the local people, and and that was so profound for me that I thought, well, I've learned some good business skills. Why don't I put into something I'd find a bit more meaningful and fulfilling? And that was really the catalyst for what became Hands Up Holidays. And certainly at the time of launching this was back in 2000. That South Africa trip was 2002, and then I took a year. I did some more study over in Canada, and then I spent the next couple of years really traveling the world and building relationships with different travel partners and communities before launching in 2006. And at that point, I relocated back to the UK and really, again, had young professionals in mind, sort of people a bit like myself who are sort of cash rich, time poor, who wanted to still have a great vacation but make a difference. However, we really right from the beginning, we're getting inquiries out of the US and inquiries from families, and families weren't on my radar at all when I was setting this up. I just, as I said, I was focused on the young professionals market, and I didn't have kids of my own at the time, and it just didn't occur to me that this would be something for families. So I was asking these families that were booking with us, why, what is it about us? And they say things like, they'd say, we are looking for a great family bonding experience, and this looks, perfect. Or they'd say, our kids come from pretty privileged backgrounds, and we want them to appreciate how fortunate they are. And that really resonated with me, and even more so now that I do have kids of my own. And so fairly early on, to use the modern term, we pivoted to focus certainly primarily, not exclusively, but primarily on families. And that's been a real blast, and certainly a blast for me to now be taking my kids on these
Hey, I
trips.
wanted to take a quick break to say thank you so much for tuning into the show. The only way the show grows is through listeners like you helping us share it. So if you're enjoying the show, it'd mean the world to me if you hit that 5-star rating, shared it with a friend or family member who's ready to travel more, save money, or just needs a little bit more inspiration and that nudge. And if you're posting about it on Instagram, go ahead and tag Itinerary Boss, and we'll make sure to reshare it and shout you out for giving us a shout out. Thanks so much for the support. It truly means a lot. And now back with the
On
show.
these trips. Um, and I guess it's probably worth mentioning one other thing in the sort of the evolution, or in terms of where we are today, is yeah, Hands Up is still going strong. But in addition to that, I launched another brand called Impact Destinations, and it's kind of conceptually, well, similar in the sense that it includes an element of giving back, but the difference with Hands Up Holidays, where it involves these things, like I mentioned, like for instance, building a house. The idea behind Impact Destinations is that a client's philanthropic donation is what enables the experts to do what they do best. And however, it also unlocks a unique experience for the traveler. And that might sound a little bit woolly, so I'll give you an example of what that could look like. In Coming back to South Africa, if on a safari day, guests can fund and then get to witness a rhino relocation from a reserve that's just facing a lot of poaching of the rhinos, and the relocation is to a much better protected reserve in Botswana. So this is where the guests actually sit in the helicopter with the veterinarian while he's darting the rhino, and then land and then spend some time with a sedated rhino before getting it, helping it onto the container and airlifting it off to Botswana. So as I say, this is really about leaving a legacy and having amazing stories to tell, um, but through the philanthropic donation.
That's amazing, and I'm glad you shared that, and I definitely want to share more just around South Africa, and it's very cool just what you guys were able to accomplish just getting started out where families weren't on your radar, and then when you started, then that became more of, hey, this is how we can help, and then it's just what it morphed into, and really some of the just cool, just excursions, expeditions, things that you've been able to then have that, be a part of what you guys are doing. So that's very cool, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, it's my pleasure, Ross, and I mean, it's just been a blast over, yeah, nearly 20 years now.
It's crazy. Sometimes you start one thing and it translates into things that you never would have imagined, and now here you are and you're enjoying it, which is very cool. Would a lot of people are interested in, and I've been to Costa Rica, so I can kind of help there, but a lot of people are interested in South Africa, going on safari, and would just love to learn more a little bit from you. What are some of your favorite places? And also, how long do you usually recommend first timers go to get the full experience?
Yeah, yeah, another great question or questions. Just dealing with the timing thing. First of all, as I mentioned, most of our clients are American, and so and typically, don't have that much vacation allowance, and and so most of our trips, even though they're all customized, they end up being around that sort of 7 to 8 day mark. And of that, 2 to 3 days is spent volunteering, and then the rest of the time is more conventional, vacation as you'd expect. Um, and so yeah, 7 8 days we can work with less, we can work with more, but that's a pretty, it's still a good number. That gives you, roughly, 2 3 days, as I say, volunteering, and then 4 to 5 days vacationing. It seems to be a really nice balance for people. And in terms of where to go, or my favorite projects, um, well, Belize is one of them. It's actually installing these eco-friendly stoves in the homes of rural Mayan families. And the reasons that I love these stoves are that, one, that they're a project that can be completed in just 2 days. And so right from zero to completion in 2 days. So it's a wonderful way to have something really tangible for a family to get involved with together alongside the local community, and then be able to have the satisfaction of completing it all in just 2 days. And then the beauty of these stoves is that they replace the traditional open flames in a hut. And those flames, particularly with young kids running around, it can be problematic in terms of them getting burns. And so the incidence of burns is reduced. Plus, they have a chimney, and so respiratory problems are dramatically reduced, such as asthma. Yeah, really thrilled to see those numbers dropping. And they're much more fuel efficient. So from an environmental perspective, they're a win as well. So it ticks a lot of boxes. So that's a favorite of mine. Another one is in Bali, Indonesia, where and I took my kids on this 2 years ago, where we helped to install a disabled accessible bathroom for a paraplegic. And what I love about this is it's unique for us in that it really only benefits one person, but the impact on that one person is so profound, that I love it. it's in Bali. Bali is a Hindu island, and in their culture, if you are born disabled, it's considered, bad karma. And so you all too often paraplegics can be sort of just hidden away from the rest of the world and just live a very lonely, isolated life. And so to be able to provide these bathrooms in this, really intimate area of, going to the bathroom is it's just fantastic to be able to um, instill in the paraplegic this sense of dignity and independence. It's a really beautiful thing to watch. And yeah, so that's one a favorite. Um, and just off the top of my head, another favorite I would say is in Argentina, where we have a project where we can, or travelers can actually create solar heating panels using recycled bottles and cans. And so these are in a small community just outside of Buenos Aires, and actually even that one's even shorter. It's even just a 1 day project to get that done. Again, being able to in this well, certainly I was going to say remote. It's not massively remote, but certainly poor community to be able to save them so much money in terms of heating bills. Uh, using this really innovative technique is a wonderful thing to experience as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all those, and I was not aware about that about Bali. That's about the culture. We were there in April, and I
Right.
knew obviously it was a Hindu island, but I was not aware about, if someone is born as a paraplegic, that's kind of how it's bad karma. That's unfortunate. That's great, the work you're doing just to help there. I mean, obviously that it means a lot and it's definitely very rewarding that I can just tell from, how you talk about it and just how passionate you are just talking about it.
Yeah, it's as I said, one of my favorites, and it was a privilege to be able to get my kids out there 2 years ago. They were involved with, it's they were drawing water from the well and then bringing that water over to the where we're mixing cement, and then they got involved with that, preparing the cement and then putting it in the wheelbarrow and then wheeling it over to the experts. And that's probably one important thing to say is that uh, if, with projects like that, with all the projects really, it's done in conjunction with local people. And our model is what I would describe, even with Hands Up Holidays, a philanthro volunteering model in that it's still the funding which enables the project to be done. So that's the benefit that our clients bring is the funding. And then the benefit that the clients get is that interaction with the local people and the insights into their lives and sharing of the stories. And so, yeah, the beauty of our model is those things. In addition, we actually are hiring local people. So we're actually an employer in these areas for these projects.
That's awesome. So then they're getting to meet people who you already know, like, trust, have worked with, and just, I feel like when families are right, when they are coming in and going on those trips, that's probably just an extra peace of mind too for them, and it's probably
Yeah,
helpful.
that's a good point. Yep, great point, Ross.
How do I want to, transition into just families, right? Or just corporate groups. I know those are different people that you work with. But how do you just help them choose between some of, what you guys do with some of the projects you just mentioned, where you're rolling up your sleeves, versus maybe something that's more of a higher dollar philanthropic add-on?
Mm. Yeah. Well, they're two different websites, and so that can be sort of self-selecting in terms of, it's quite possible that someone is completely unaware of the other site and the other potential experience. But having said that, in terms of uh, basically in with regards to either website, it's that's the way, that's our conduit into the conversation with our clients, and then do a deep dive into really what they are looking for, and hope to get out of their trip. And that's, I do almost all of those. That's my sort of passion project, is working with our clients, and deeply understanding what their objectives are, and the family dynamics, if it is a family, um, and then drawing on the experience that I have, to prepare the hopefully the ideal trip for them. And but yeah, there can be some tweaking along the way, but it's really heartening how often, even just on the first attempt at sending, me sending through a suggested itinerary to them, they say, yeah, you've nailed it.
That's awesome. Well, you've done it for a while and they see you as the expert, right? And you
Yeah, yeah,
that's the best part is and that's why I like asking like, hey, what are some of your favorite places or where do you guys like do most of your work? Because it's not like you've gone once and then you've done it for a while and you go back and you start to like you mentioned, you started now to employ some of the local people, which you're starting just to continually build out right relationships, and that just helps people and yourself. It goes back to for me when we studied abroad, we had a professor who he went to Ireland and he went to Australia and he flip-flopped each year, and he just shared every single year, the itinerary got better, the relationships within, right, the university that,
sure.
people were studying in got better. And yeah, but it just came from, right, building out those relationships, understanding. And yeah, it's the itinerary he built for us. I think it was probably his 15th year it was great. So it just
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of that.
yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah. But just around kids, and you traveling with your kids, I think that's amazing. I think, right, like you said, you're building that bond, being able to share, hey, here's the importance of travel, but also here's the importance of giving back. I guess from your perspective, like, what do you feel like you've learned that then through volunteering that you're trying to then pass on to other families to really replicate?
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably the key lesson that I took away right from my first experience, but it just keeps being reinforced, is contentment. Um, there is, the people we work with have nothing, and yet they're happier than most people I know, and and so that's, for me, is, yeah, my biggest lesson. And certainly, I see it in my kids as well, that their peers, perfectly understandably, it's we're in a consumerist society, and it's a really hard, um, tide to flow against. Um, you know that they the expression "keeping up with the Joneses"
Yeah. Yeah.
and so on. It's a, um uh for some reason I've blanked on that. What's it? What's the spinning mouse thing called?
The rat
Um,
race, keeping up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Um, but and so for me, and as I say, it's really every time it gets reinforced, but every time it's brought into stark contrast when I do get out there, that there is this, um yeah, contentment, which is a wake up call, and I have adopted it, but it's it's so insidious that I can fall into the trap of consumerism
Yeah.
again. Uh, but yeah, it's a key lesson that I keep on learning.
Yeah, well, social media amplifies it. So that that's one
Yeah,
thing. And yeah, there's actually funny enough, before we started recording, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Sahil Bloom, but he talks about the five pillars of wealth. And I think everyone is always, a lot of people are always focusing on, right, if I'm building towards this and I have a great career and I'm doing all this stuff and money is good, like then I'll be happy when I get to this. And he makes the analogy of, and you'll like this since you were a banker, an investment banker who, right, like he comes into this fishing village and the fisherman's like, yeah, I go fish and I fish in the morning, then I get done, and then I go have lunch with my wife, and then I go get beers with my buddies. And the investment banker's like, well, you could, do this, and then you could get it, buy it, catch enough fish, and then buy another boat, then move to the next town, then move to the city, then have this enterprise, then make enough money, and then retire. And then the fisherman laughs and he just walks away and he's like, but why? I would be in the same position as I am now. I already have enough. So it's like
Yeah,
it's a very good and just reminding thing of, yeah, sometimes you go like whenever we travel, sometimes people are so happy and it's just living some of the simplest lives. And it's not, right? They don't have everything and they don't have all the stresses that, hustle culture and society keeps up with. So I love that lesson and, you're definitely setting your kids up for success because, those are very important things. Because yeah, a lot gets lost in translation, especially like you said, in a consumerism as a society.
exactly, Ross. Yeah.
Yep. What about so hands up incentives, right? So I want to talk about
Mm,
that because, right, I work with business owners, I work with companies. So would love just to learn a little bit more about that and
mm.
yeah, and then we can get more into it.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. In the early days of Hands of Holidays, I had a PA who attended a charity auction or some sort of other fundraiser. And at that event, she met a founder, CEO of a software reseller. This is in England. And he said, we do actually a lot of incentive trips, but I'm a bit sick of them being just big piss ups. And and she said, well, have I got the company for you? She did an amazing selling job, given we certainly hadn't done an incentive trip at that point. Um, but he said, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Get him to give me a call. And so I did, and then went and met with him. Their offices were an hour or so out of London, and right from the beginning, just loved this guy. He's uh, a real, what's the word? Sort of very much a intuitive leader, um, and and very much decentralized, very much just gives all the control really, even of the company he was running, to his staff, to the point where, by example, so he said, well, we're currently considering a trip in the Caribbean, um, a cruise. So let me know what you can come up with by way of alternative. And so I went away and ended up proposing a trip to Fiji that was a combination of building a house for a family in one of the slums. It's probably a little known fact that Fiji has slums, but it does just outside the capital city in particular. And so building a house for a family there, and then finishing with a cruise in the Yasawa Islands. And he said, "Okay, let's come in and give a presentation to our. I think he said, I can't remember exactly the term, but management team or something like that." And this was a company of, like, at that point it was like 100 people, and so I thought, oh, the management team must be 8 or 10 people or something like that. And so I got there, and it was the whole company actually was the management team. And so I presented to all 100 people, and then he and I just stepped out, and he said, well, you guys vote and decide what you want to do. And so I went to his office with him, and we sort of shot the breeze for half an hour or something, and then got word that they'd made the decision. And sorry about this. Um, And yeah, they'd pretty much unanimously voted to do the Fiji trip. And so that was the first trip, and they ended up doing many trips with us. Um, and then he retired. I actually just an aside, but I co-wrote a book with him about because actually that company is called Softcat. They ended up becoming the Sunday Times, which is one of the big newspaper publishers there. They publish every year a listing of the best workplaces to work, and they won it for they were number one for small to medium size business, and so I mean, they just illustrate they're an amazing guy who just created this incredible culture. And so I co-wrote a book with him, which is really me interviewing him about what it takes to create a a thriving workplace culture. And then since he's become a private client as well. Now he takes, again, there's just an aside, but he just takes he's retired and he just takes a bunch of mates with their partners to amazing locations around the world, and doing philanthropy as he goes. But as I say, that's a bit of an aside. So the hands up incentives, yeah, it really that was the birthing of it, and we've worked with Fortune 500 companies since then. And really the benefits of these trips for corporates is that it ticks a lot of boxes from lots of different angles, from an employee team building perspective, from employee engagement, also from a PR perspective, to be seen to be good, and particularly with millennial employees these days, to have to to work for a company where their values are aligned is a really big thing. And and then obviously there's the one of the beauties of an incentive trip is it only happens if sales targets are hit.
Yeah.
So it really only happens if you're doing well. So yeah, and again, and from a corporate responsibility perspective as well. So yeah, as I say, ticks a lot of boxes, and it's been um yeah, a lot of fun putting those trips together around. We've done really from, as I say, Fiji, we've done Cambodia and Vietnam through to Hawaii as well. We actually built, well, I say we, our clients funded and built a community center, Hawaiian cultural center, just outside of Honolulu. And then we've had other projects through that where it's um, been aligned with, yeah, well, yeah, where possible, we aligned the project with the company's values. So we worked with Nalco on providing um, fresh water to four schools in Morocco, and that was one of our bigger ones that had like 200 of their staff were on that, and so we divided them up across these four schools. And as I said, the project was providing fresh drinking water to them. So yeah, um, I love it because you still get to retain all of the fantastic elements that people love with an incentive, like great hotels and gala dinners and fun activities. But there is, and the beauty of the the give back component on an incentive trip is that comes back to really what I spoke about in terms of that philanthropy volunteering model. Most of that work can be done through employing local people to do most of the work in advance. And then the like for instance that Morocco trip, most of that work was done before the group got there. But then they spent half a day um, on the finishing touches and then handing it over to the community. So you still know that it was your organization that funded it and made it possible. And then you get those warm fuzzies about actually you're seeing the reaction of the community when they receive it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very cool and interesting how everything started, and that's funny that you thought it was an eight-person management company and then you walked in and it was surprise 100 people, but right, it worked out and I mean, I agree. It's aligning with what a lot of people value in work-life balance, benefits, and it just shows if that place won workplace culture multiple times and they were number one on the list, like that's huge, and they
Yeah.
were aligning
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it. And it sounds like the guy who is a client now and who was the CEO then, like you said, he had his staff do most of the stuff and he just really let them run the business almost, and he was there to help support. I mean, a lot of times that's what the best leaders do. So that's very, very cool to hear that story and how everything came about.
Yeah. He is incredibly empowering and just a remarkable guy.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, Chris, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing everything. Is there anything else you want our listeners to take away, where they can find you, or any call to action you have?
Yeah. Well, we've covered three websites well, three brands, and they all have three websites. So there's handsupholidays.com, impactdestinations.com, and handsupincentives.com, which is going under a bit of a refresh right now. But any of those will have our contact details on them. And so you can reach out to me through those contact pages or directly at, well, let's say Chris at handsupholidays.com. That works.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure to for our listeners to link those in the show notes. Again, Chris, really appreciate you coming on. And if you're a listener, make sure you give us a follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. That way you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. If you found this valuable, if you want to get involved with what Chris and Hands Up Holidays and Hands Up Incentives are doing, feel free to share with a family or a friend. That way they can help. And if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a rating and review. That's how we help grow the show and help people travel. Appreciate it again, Chris.
Uh, it's honor is all mine, Ross. It's been a real blast.
All right. Thank you.